friends, welcome to my channel Science Unearthed. Today our topic is salts. We will study about salts. Please like, share and subscribe to my channel and please see the video up to the end to get the full details about salts. Now, salts are chemical compounds that are formed by the reaction of acids with bases. It means when acids react with bases, then we get salts. A salt consists of positive ion of a base and the negative ion of an acid. As I have earlier told you that salts are the chemical compounds that are formed by the reaction of acids with bases. It means the one part of the base comes to the salt and one part of acid comes to the salt. It means a salt consists of the positive ion of a base. It means the positive part of the salt comes from base and the negative ion comes from an acid. Salts derive their half name from acids and half from base. As they are formed from acid by the combination of acid and bases, so that their half name comes from acid and the half comes from base. Now example is HCl. When it reacts with NaOH, sodium hydroxide, then it gives NaCl. HCl is acid, strong acid, and NaOH is sodium hydroxide, that is a strong base, and both combine to give NaCl, that is a salt. Here NaCl or the sodium chloride takes its name from sodium hydroxide base and hydrochloric acid. From sodium hydroxide base, it gets Na ion, that is positive ion, and from hydrochloric acid, it gets Cl, that is the negative ion. So it takes its name from acid and base both. Now, there are certain examples of salts that are formed from acid and bases. Now, potassium hydroxide, when it reacts with sulfuric acid, H2SO4, the reaction produces potassium sulfate. The reaction produces potassium sulfate, that is a salt, and water. Again, KOH, potassium hydroxide, when it reacts with H2SO4, potassium hydroxide is a strong base and H2SO4 is a strong acid. When both react, they give K2SO4 plus H2O. When now NaOH plus HNO3, NaOH, sodium hydroxide, HNO3, nitric acid, these two combine to give NaNO3 plus H2O. Now NaNO3 is sodium nitrate and water. When sodium hydroxide reacts with acetic acid, CH3COOH, the reaction is a neutralization reaction that produces sodium acetate and water, H2O. The equation is NaOH plus CH3COOH equal to CH3COONA plus H2O. Here NaOH is sodium hydroxide, CH3COOH acetic acid, CH3COONA sodium acetate and water. So these are formed. Now the name of the salt comes from the name of acid and the name of base. For example, name of the salt called sodium chloride comes from sodium hydroxide base and hydrochloric acid. Now I will tell you certain names. The salts of hydrochloric acid are called chlorides. Salts of hydrochloric acid are called chlorides. It means the salts which are formed from hydrochloric acid, they will be chlorides. The salts of sulfuric acid are called sulfates. It means the salts which are formed by the reaction of sulfuric acid, so that those salts will be named as sulfates. The salts of nitric acid are called nitrates. Yeah, it means nitric acid on combination with certain base will give the salts which are called as nitrates. The salts of carbonic acid are called carbonates. The salts of acetic acid are called acetates. Now, there are certain formulas. Sodium chloride, NaCl, calcium chloride, CaCl2, magnesium chloride, MgCl2, zinc chloride, ZnCl2, sodium sulfate, Na2SO4, potassium sulfate, K2SO4, calcium sulfate, CaSO4, magnesium sulfate, MgSO4, aluminium sulfate, Al2SO4 whole thrice, zinc sulfate, ZnSO4, copper sulfate, CuSO4, ammonium sulfate, NH4 whole twice SO4, sodium nitrate, NaNO3, potassium nitrate, KNO3, sodium carbonate, Na2CO3, calcium carbonate, CaCO3, zinc carbonate, ZnCO3, sodium acetate, CH3COO, Now we come to the properties of salts. If we prepare solution of a salt in water, just like acid and bases, salt also conduct electricity. It means when we dissolve a salt in water, then it will conduct electricity. As for example, when NaCl is dissolved in water, it is dissociated as follows. NaCl, common salt, dissolved in water. So it splits into two parts. Na plus means sodium ion, that is positive, and Cl minus, chloride ion. So it is dissociated into two parts. Now, as you know, in a solution, if there are ions present, in any solution, if ions are present, then it conducts electricity. So in this case, NaCl, Na plus and Cl minus, both are ions. So they will conduct electricity. It means they will always conduct electricity. Salts are mostly solid. Number 3, they have high melting point. It means if we want to melt a salt, then we will have to heat it to a very high temperature. They have very high melting point. In the same way, they have high boiling points also. Salts are usually soluble in water. Means when we dissolve them in water, they are completely soluble. Usually, there are some exceptions also. Salts are ionic compounds. Ionic compounds means compounds made up of ions. Uh, as we generally see that when an ionic compound is dissolved in water, then it splits it up into two parts, and these two parts will be ions. So they form ions in a solution. They are called as ionic compounds. Salts are electrolytes as they have ions in them. It means the solution of salts can be used as electrolytes as they have ions in them. So we can use them as electrolytes. Means in any cell, if we want to conduct electricity, then we can use the solutions of salts. Every salt has positively charged ion, and the positively charged ion, there is a particular name for this, that is cation. And a negatively charged ion, the particular name of negatively charged ion is an anion. So it has two types of ions in them. Now we will discuss about the families of salts. The salts having same positively charged and negatively charged ions are said to belong to the same family of salts. As for example, sodium chloride NaCl and sodium sulfate Na2SO4 belong to same family of salts called sodium salts. In these two, if you see on the screen, these two means NaCl and Na2SO4. Both have Na or the sodium ion in common. It means both these salts, they have same sodium ion. So they will belong to the same family of the salts called sodium salts, because they contain the same positively charged sodium ion. Similarly, we can take another example, NaCl and CaCl2. Both belong to same salt family called chloride salts. As you see the formulas of these two, NaCl and CaCl2, in both these formulas, one thing is common, that is Cl, means the negative part is same in both the salts. So they belong to the same family called as chloride salts. Example of salt family, there are on the basis of these, there we form certain families. We can name certain families of salts as sodium salt, calcium salt, potassium salt, magnesium salt, zinc salts, ammonium salts, aluminium salts, copper salts, sulfate salts, nitrate salts, chloride salts, acetate salts, carbonate salts. Now we can understand all of them one by one. Sodium salt, as the name indicates, they will have sodium ion in common. The name of the salt tells you the name of the common ion. Calcium salt, calcium salt means the calcium ion will be common. Potassium salts, potassium ion will be common in both the salts. So they are put in the same family. In the same way, aluminium salts. In this, aluminium part will be common. Copper salts, copper part will be common. So all these are the uh, categories or the families of the salts. Now we will discuss about the pH of the salts. As you know that salt is formed by the combination of acid and base. So if you imagine this reaction, then you will then you will say that uh, acid neutralizes base and base neutralizes acid. So there will be nothing left in the solution. It shows, but there are some exceptions also. If we consider this thing that acid neutralizes base and base neutralizes acid, it means acid and base both are destroyed. So the solution will be neutral. If we think so, then it will be neutral. But there are certain exceptions also. There are certain exceptions also. There, in some cases, if we see the pH of the salts, then in some examples they can show basic nature, and in some they can show acidic nature. Certain salts that produce acidic and basic solutions when mixed with water. So their examples are sodium carbonate. The pH of sodium carbonate is 9. That is basic in nature. As we know that the value of the pH 7 shows neutral solution. It means if we find out the pH value of neutral solution, it comes to 7. And the substances or the chemical substances that have pH value less than 7, they will be acidic, and the salts that have pH value more than 7, they will be basic in nature. So this is the scale of measuring pH value. So if you imagine like this, that acid neutralizes base and base neutralizes acid, then nothing will be left in the solution, and the solution should be neutral. But there are certain exceptions, that when these salts are dissolved in water, so they sometimes they show basic nature and sometimes they show acidic nature. Now this exception, how it happens, we can well understand with the help of a process that is called as hydrolysis of salts. Hydrolysis means a splitting up of a compound by the action of water. Means if salt is dissolved in water, then it splits up into ions. In other words, hydrolysis of salt is a chemical reaction that occurs when salt is mixed with water. When the salt is mixed with water, then it breaks the salt's ionic bonds and producing an acidic or basic solution. Example, salts of strong acid and strong bases. If we take these two things, strong acid and strong base, then what will happen? They will give the neutral solution. Neutral solution means the pH of that solution will be 7. We can take the example sodium chloride. Sodium chloride is a salt, and how it is formed? Sodium chloride is formed by the combination of strong acid, hydrochloric acid, and strong base called sodium hydroxide. So both these combine to form this sodium chloride, and its solution will be neutral, having pH 7. Another example or salt which gives neutral solution is potassium sulfate. Potassium sulfate is a salt. It is made up of strong acid, sulfuric acid, and a strong base, potassium hydroxide. Both are strong. So they give the K2SO4, which is neutral solution, and its pH is 7. So how this solution becomes neutral? Because acid and base both are strong. Both are strong. So in earlier videos, I explained about the strong bases and strong acids. Now I am repeating this thing. A strong acid, a strong acid is that acid which which splits or which dissociated completely or fully in water when it is uh, dissolved in water. So it splits up fully or ionizes fully. That is called as strong acid. And strong base is that which ionizes completely, so that is called as strong base. So when these two combine to form a salt, then the resulting solution will be neutral, having pH 7. Now we will take another example. If a salt is made up of a strong acid and a weak base, it means we take a strong acid and weak base, both combine to form a salt. So in that case, they give the acidic solution. They give the acidic solution. Example, ammonium chloride. This is made up from a strong acid, hydrochloric acid, and a weak base, ammonium hydroxide. Strong acid is hydrochloric acid and weak base ammonium hydroxide. So these two combine to give ammonium chloride. So as I have told you earlier that they will give the acidic solution. So how it happens? Because in this case, the hydrochloric acid is a strong acid. And what about ammonium hydroxide? This is weak base. Then the hydrochloric acid, which is a strong acid, it will ionize fully. It means it will give sufficient amount of H plus ions, that is hydrogen ions. They will give sufficient amount. So in the solution, the amount of hydrogen ion H plus will be more than the amount of OH ions. So the acid part will dominate. It means they will give the acidic solution always. Aqueous solution of ammonium chloride is acidic in nature. Then its chemical equation is NH4Cl, ammonium chloride plus H2O. They will give NH4OH, ammonium hydroxide, and HCl, hydrochloric acid. Because due to the presence of strong acid always ionizes fully, so they give to a big amount or the big amount of hydrogen ions as compared to OH ions. So they will dominate and will give the acidic solution. Now the next case is the salts of weak acid with strong bases. Means if a salt is made up of weak acid with strong bases, it means the acid is weak and base is strong. So they will give the basic solution. Now let us take the example of sodium carbonate, Na2CO3. It is the salt of weak acid, carbonic acid, and a strong base. Strong base is sodium hydroxide. The aqueous solution of sodium carbonate will be basic in nature, because in this case the base is more strong. It means it will ionize fully and it will give a big amount of OH ions as compared to H ions. So OH ions will dominate. So the solution will be basic in nature. Its chemical equation is Na2CO3 plus 2H2O. It gives NaOH and H2CO3. Now NaOH is a strong base which is fully ionized and gives a large amount of hydroxide ions. Since sodium carbonate contains uh, only few these ions, so it is basic in nature. It turns red litmus to blue. Now this is all about the salts. Now please don't forget to like, subscribe and share my video. Thank you very much.